All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. James, good to have you.
What? Wait, are we on?
we are good to have you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Dave, James, and the mouth breather Kyle
Yeah,
coming at you.
thanks, Kyle. Thanks for bringing everything to this podcast. Let me get this off my back here.
Gosh.
Do you guys not have one of these? Are you not familiar with what this is yet?
You know, I can't say I do.
Is that where you locked up all your other horrible seasons?
I'll tell you what, if you can get one, the earlier you get them, because they sell out quick. Get your hands on them as soon as you can.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so today we're going to do a little different. We're not going to do the regular weekly breakdown of matchups. I thought it'd be fun to look at power rankings of who we think is ranked where, and then dive into who we think is going to be in the playoffs, which does not necessarily correlate to the power rankings. And then if we have time, we'll look at a couple critical matchups that we see down the road that could have some major implications for the playoffs and people wearing, going drag, things like that. So, sound like fun. Kyle, it looks like you're ready to go.
Wow!
I don't. Okay. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna hand it over to you. Let's get the power ranking started. Give us your 10th ranked team.
That would be Tickle My Dickle at 1 and 9. And then at number 9, we have Camel Humpers.
Hey, stop. We're gonna go. Do you want to wait? Actually, we didn't say that. Do we want to go around the horn? Each do 10, or do you want to just blow through your whole list?
Blow through the whole list, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Just blow it, Kyle. Just blow it all.
Well, we blow it right now. Camel Humpers at 9. I have this is a flip-flop in the standings. I have Bryson Boldface at 8. I have Dennis at 7. This is a flip-flop. I have James at 6. I have Clits and Dicks at 5. I have Bad Hombres at 4. I have Smegma at 3. I have me at 2. And I have Dave Taggarty at 1.
I think it's a silent home, and it's more of an ohm.
Home.
It's a silent H, so the H is silent, like in Django.
Even if I say it bad, I could still be president, so it doesn't matter.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Can't argue with that.
I'm going to be president one day.
Oh my God.
It could happen. Anyone can be. You're set, don't worry.
Never walking into another job interview and being like, I don't have to have those requirements.
Yep.
So Kyle,
I'm white and I have a penis. That's all that matters. Anyways, I'll go next. So I've got a little bit different criteria, I guess. Kyle's just looking at standings and then like arbitrarily deciding who he likes better.
Yeah.
So I do unfortunately have Jeremy and Tickle My Dickle at number 10. Surprise, surprise. Number 9, the way things stand going forward, I've got Boldface Killers in the number 9 slot.
Oh, that hurts.
I've got Suck coming in at number 8. I have got Camel Humpers, number 7. Hill Clinton Dix. No, sorry. Me, number 6. Chris Bergeron, Hill Clinton Dix, number 5. Bad Hombres, number 4. Troll Toll, number 3. Seizures and Divorces, number 2. And Glenn coming in at the number 1 spot moving forward, despite his awful trade.
Can can I get
I don't even.
can I
I'm
get some
muting.
explanation there?
I'm muting.
No, not yet. Go ahead. You said we weren't going to do this yet. We were gonna.
We're gonna blast through it and then do it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let me blast through mine. I've got this one was a tough one. Number 10 is because there's so many, shitty teams in our league. But yeah, Jeremy is number 10. Dennis at 9. I've got Awadala at 8, and Bryson at 7. I have Chris Bergeron at number 6. I have Mr. James Johnson at 5, followed by Glenn Shaw at number 4. I have Kyle Felicki, number 3. My blowjob of the hour goes to Ronnie at number 2.
Wow.
And number 1 goes to this guy right here. This guy. So a lot of controversial stuff to talk about here. Let's start with the first one. Kyle, you put Jeremy at number 10. What's your logic behind that?
So if we start to look at numbers and the way the Earth spins, and the fact we haven't got to Mars yet, and the fact that he gave away David Johnson, yeah, he just sucks this year. I don't know what else to say.
Is that one of the worst trades we've ever seen, or is it just just a bad trade?
Glenn's might be worse now. Glenn's might be worse now.
Well, Glenn's had less time to come to fruition, but obviously more important with the playoffs around the corner. But you traded your first round pick. Crabtree and Olsen were 3 and 5 rounds, third and fifth round. So he traded his first round pick. That's a big deal. So for my money, I think that might go down as one of the worst. We will, definitely be evaluating that after the season.
I think it's interesting that if Baldwin comes along and how bad Chris needs help now at wide receiver, if he kind of should have tried to keep Baldwin at least better than what he has, but we'll see that in the long run.
I don't think there was anything else controversial about. Oh, wait. There was one other thing. James, you had things at the top. Would you mind explaining your logic there?
Sure.
For the listeners?
Well, all 7 of them. Yeah. So here's the thing. I was talking with Ronnie. Ronnie and I were trying to work out maybe a deal or something last night, and then saw the trade come through, obviously, and Bryson definitely got the better end of it, I think most people would say. But when you look at Glenn's team, I don't know that it changes things all that much for him. He loses some of the floor that he had with Crabtree in there and with Olsen in there, but Olsen can have bad games where he disappears too if he's not in the game plan. So he's still got Bennett. He's got Hopkins, who's going to get targets. Osweiler's really bad. So I don't think anybody thought he was going to be this bad with Hopkins as his number 1 receiver, but so far he has been. But I really don't think it changes much for Glenn's team when you look at it on the whole. He's got enough depth there where the upside is fine.
He has a ton of depth. He is the number 1 ranked for bench points.
Yeah.
Averaging
so I look at
92.
Yeah. When you get past the initial these two guys, which I think he lost, I don't know that it really changes much for him. So I think his team's been solid all year. And going forward, if that happens, I just like his depth more than anybody else in the league.
That's fair. So, and he has 3 matchups in the 190 range. So he can do it. And That's one of them. His tight end only got 13 points. So I mean, it's definitely doable for him.
And this is another reason why I think so. What's his record right now? 7-3 or something like that.
Yes, I think so.
7-3. So, I mean, he's got the second toughest schedule. He's played the second toughest schedule, and I think he's scored the second most points. So, I mean, he could very easily have another win or two in there and be right up there pushing with, pushing your record if,
totally.
If you hadn't played it. The thing with your strength of schedule, Dave, is the weeks that you've played teams that haven't scored very much, you haven't scored very much, but just enough to win. So it hasn't really affected you that much. So, like, Glenn has played good teams having a good week, and he's had a good week, but just not as good as the other guys. So I think he's got a really, really good team, and I just wanted to say, fuck you, you're not number one, buddy.
Well, it's fair. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's the argument. Like, Kyle and I were going back and forth, because, it's easy to look at my strength of schedule and say, oh, Taggart is number one because look at he's faced like almost 200 points less than the next lowest team. Like, that's a huge advantage, right? But like you said, it just I think if my schedules were swapped with someone else, I would still have, given my points force, would still have a decent record. I'd probably be in that 6-4, 7-3 range. But because of the way the cards have fallen, like even just last week, it was 158 to 152. And that Landy Collins interception really boosted it because it was a touch and go there for a while in Monday Night Football. So it is, it's just kind of worked out. The weeks that I'm not scoring 220 points are I'm scoring 150 and playing the guy that's scoring 140. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that like when we talk about, there is an element of luck or chance or whatever you want to call it in this game. And I think that's really where it comes in, is who are you playing each week? How does the schedule line up and all that? And there is some planning and bye weeks and depth and all that stuff, but really that you can't change who you play. It's just like you just do whatever you can and score as many points as you can each week, and that's it. So
yep
yeah,
definitely,
that's my thinking there.
That's fair. I want to take a couple minutes. One of the controversial ones I had was Ronnie at number 2. Was actually talking with Kyle before the podcast and looking over some stats. And it's really a tale of two halves with Ronnie. His first half, his team was averaging like 150, I think it was. And, in the second half, his team's up 14 points a week on average. His quarterback points have doubled from the first half to the second half. And his running back points went from 28 to 39. So, in the second half,
I wonder why that happened.
Yeah, well, actually, Le'Veon has had a little bit of hit or miss, but ultimately, he's definitely starting to turn it up at the right time. And I'll talk about that when we get to playoff teams here in a minute. But that was one of the big ones, I think. And Bergeron, actually, we might be talking about Bergeron in the playoff team scenarios a little bit, but there's some things to talk about with his team too. Like he's got a really solid core, but his wide receivers are just shit. And trade deadline expired at noon Eastern today, so he can't make a move, but got to figure something out there. But I don't know. Anything else you guys want to do on power rankings, or do you want to jump to playoff predictions?
I have one thing, and we brought this up when we were talking about the Glenn trade. Going into the play, and James put it kind of like perfectly. Going into the playoffs, like Glenn loses some of that floor with Crabtree, and I guess the question I have, and maybe this is why I'm giving the trade so much shit, is like going into the playoffs, I would want more floor than more ceiling. I would want more consistency than boom or bust, and I feel that Crabtree was his consistent receiver at that point, and that Olsen was his the number one tight end in the league right now. So if it's not broken, why fix it? And that's why I guess I'm not understanding why he traded the pieces he did, because Bryson was the one that was in the more desperation mode at that point of fixing what he needed to fix. And I think given the opportunity, I don't know how it would have went down, but I think he could have packaged some other receiver with Olsen if he wanted Gronk that bad and saved Crabtree for that floor. And I just don't I don't understand. Like last year, I had multiple times where I could have made some of those trades of like, oh, I'm set, like whatever I was, I could make that trade and give that guy away and maybe get more points in the playoffs based on schedule and stuff like that. But it's like I went with the mentality of like, if it's not broken, why fix it? I don't know. Maybe that's why I've given it so much shit.
Well, no, and I agree. And I think that like we just spoke about a little bit ago, you have Greg Olsen. Like, you're number 2 in tight end production right now, number 2, and that's against guys who are starting 3 tight ends this year. Like, we're seeing 3 tight ends being started on some teams, and you're number 2 in tight end production. You've got Greg Olsen, who is slumping a little bit. Carolina's offense as a whole is slumping, but you're trading for this, like you said, ceiling. You're trading for this upside in a guy who's consistently been the number 1 guy, but has also consistently dealt with injuries. And he whether it's an arm or whatever he's got going on right now with his chest, it's still a little iffy. But like, I guess you just traded for not even just upside, but more uncertainty. And like you said, like when it comes to the playoffs, like where teams in his position are usually looking at like, all right, I'll make a trade, but let me look at the schedule that guy has and see what he has week 14 through 16.
Yeah.
When you look at the Pats schedule, and they've got Denver and the Jets, I think, for defenses, whereas Greg Olsen has a lighter one. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we were looking at it before the pod, and it's like, that's what you should be looking at. And I feel like you missed some of that in the negotiations here and went for the name of someone who could get 20 points, but so could Olsen. And I think Ronnie had a really good analysis of like, he was really locked in on what he thinks Glenn may have been thinking. And I think that was probably where his mindset was. I've just kind of with Kyle that I think while I see where you were, I don't necessarily think that that's the way I would have gone.
Yeah.
Right. And like to unload Hopkins, I mean, nobody wants to touch the Texans offense. And then I look at it in the sense of then if he ever does play Hopkins, he's got Lamar Miller and Hopkins running at the same time if he starts Lamar at that point. And that becomes a problem as well. Now, that being said, not everybody is Ezekiel Elliott and Des Bryant and can put up that kind of points on a weekly basis. But that's the thing. Like I know that's a struggle for me now too, though. Is like I'm buying into Dallas. Like if Dallas struggles down the way, I struggle down the way, and that's why like I wouldn't make a trade to put like a guy in there. I mean, I did, but like this late in the season is what I'm talking about. When I'm 7-3, I wouldn't make that trade. I made the trade for Des Bryant when I was like 3-5 or something like that, or like 3-3. So at that point, I can kind of justify myself and like, okay, well, I'm buying into Dallas at this point. Like if Dallas struggles, I lose games. But when you're 7-3, I don't know. Like I would want Hopkins at that point, bearing the offense and the fact that I already have Lamar Miller. So it's just like
Would you rather have DeAndre Hopkins or Allen Robinson? Maybe he's just going to swap those two guys out.
Robinson.
I mean, I would still have Robinson. He's coming on as of late. I wouldn't want to put Hopkins in there over Robinson just because Robinson still got the better quarterback, I think.
There was an interesting stat that I got on a podcast, so I might be revealing my source here if you listen to the same one. But Lamar Miller has a higher yards per carry on the ground than Brock Osweiler has passing yards per completion. Like it's pretty bad. And I mean, we won't talk about Denver and get off topic of fantasy, but obviously I think, Denver fans can clearly be rejoicing on that one because, for a minute there, we thought maybe this would pan out for them, but clearly not panning out for Houston.
Yeah. It's all about the offense. Like, what is the offense doing? So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Crazy.
What would your guys' grades be for the trade? I know Ron gave it an A for Bryson or something like that and a B+ for Glenn.
I'd say I'm sticking with Bryson's grade. I think Bryson needed to make some moves. I think he got rid of we kind of like James even said, like while he was analyzing the trade, this is more than just a 2-for-2 trade. But if you're just looking at it in the 2 players for 2 players sense, I think Bryson clearly got the better end of the deal. Oakland's offense is hot. Crabtree he's definitely, like you said, Kyle, more consistent. And you get Greg Olsen, who is, you don't lose anything at tight end. If anything, I would almost argue you gain a more, like you said, a higher floor at tight end than you get with Gronk, and you get a wide receiver that you can plug in and automatically. So I think Bryson definitely, all right, sorry, my grade, Bryson A+, Glenn, I see where you're going, but I got to say C-. I agree with Kyle. I don't think you needed to do this at all. So I'd probably say C-. James?
Yeah, I'd go. I think Bryson did a really good job. I mean, the thing with Bryson right now is he needs reliability because he's been dealing with a ton of shit too with injuries and whatever's going on. So he needs like warm bodies, literally, that he can plug into his roster. And trust me, I know the feeling. So that's what he's going for. And he got 2 great starters out of it. So definitely an A or A+, whatever there. And then Glenn, I still think he's more in the B- range. I don't think it's as bad as people think it is when you look at his whole team. So,
yeah,
but not great. I don't think I would have done it. But I mean, he just might have the solid man jams for Tom Brady, and sometimes you can't stop yourself.
Speaking of Glenn's man jams, I don't know if you guys have gone to the Anthropology website lately, but oh my God, there are some skimpalicious beauties that Glenn is going to look fantastic in. I just can't wait. It's going to be beautiful.
Is it? You never answered my question on Facebook, Dave. Is it true if I beat him this week and you win, then it's a lock that he's in the dress?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, I'm 1 and so I'd be 1, he's 4. That's a 3-game difference. That'd be a 3-game difference with, well.
What if there's a tie? Then you both wear a dress?
I like that idea better.
I'm not concerned about that at all. Actually, it's funny. Chelsea, Glenn's wife, Facebook messaged me and sent me a picture of what she wants Glenn to wear. It was a Hillary Clinton pantsuit.
That's not slutty enough. We want slutty.
That's what I said. She's like, but I would get a lot of joy out of this. I'm like, whose joy I'm concerned with in this scenario? Mine. I'm the only one I want to be happy. All right. You guys ready? Let's move on to playoff teams.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start at the bottom. And James, why don't we start with you if you're ready?
All right. So, I mean, I'm just going to go kind of straight to it because the seeding and all that I'm not totally sure on right now, but I think the 4 teams that are going to end up being out just because of the way things are looking right now with tiebreakers, with schedules, because kind of the middle and bottom of our league we've just kind of been eating each other alive a little bit, so nobody can really like gain any ground for the most part. But who knows? Somebody could go on a streak here. But I think the way things are right now, with Bryson, Dennis, Chris, and Jeremy, Chris Abadala, those 4 are going to be out. With Dave, Glenn, Kyle, Ron, James, and Chris being in, and I think it's going to be pretty close. I mean, we're all only separated by 2 games, kind of in the middle there, 6-4 to 4-6, and then Awadala with the outside shot at 3-7. And we've seen some crazy stuff in our league, so we know runs can happen. So Camel Humpers is not out of it, especially with a couple of guys coming back here that could give them a boost. So we'll see. The guys I'm talking about, Rawls and Frank Gore back off a bye, stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think Bryson, Dennis, Camel Humpers, and Jeremy are all going fishing.
Sorry, I was muted. I think that's definitely fair. Yeah, good analysis. Mr. Felicki, what do you think?
So I'm pretty much on the same track. I got Dave, Glenn, me, Ron, and James as the 5. And then the 6th spot, I mean, I honestly have Dennis going on the run to finish the season and winning out.
Wow.
He's getting, as much as I hate Dennis in itself, his team I still think is better than I always give it crap for. He's going to have Stafford. I think Stafford, if I'm looking at the schedule real quick, he's got New Orleans, Chicago, and the Giants. I'm sorry, this week. Jacksonville, Minnesota, New Orleans. So he's got really 2 good games out of Stafford right there. Odell's coming along. Jordy, I mean, that's kind of the weird spot. And then if Mike Evans, he had 1 bad game last week of like 8 points or something. But the good thing is that Tate has come along, and Eifert played pretty good on that last game as well. Eifert's starting to get the ball more and down the field. So I mean, just from the talent perspective, I think Dennis is the one built right now to go on the run to make the 6th seed. Bryson could be the one that does it from the trade. That would be the kind of giveaway, is if he plays those people and they perform. I just think Chris has got a really talented team, but the wide receivers are just not going to carry him to where he needs to be. So I got all the same that James said, but I have Dennis in there at the 6th spot.
Gotcha. Yep. I can't argue with that either. There's James said it, there's so much that can happen. There's so many things that can change. We've seen it happen every single year. It's always the most fun time is that week 12, week 13, where we have to put up that actual factual of what you need to happen to win, to get into the playoffs.
How is James going to miss the playoffs this year?
Well, I'll tell you how you're not, James. You're not going to miss it by winning out, which is what I have you doing. So, yeah. So we'll start at the top. I got myself at number 1, Glenn at number 2. This kind of goes to, not the flip-flop here, but, kind of to what James said. Glenn's team is still Glenn's team. And I don't think that trade, well, it didn't make sense, didn't hurt him drastically. I still think he finishes 9-4. But I got Ronnie 9-4 as well, which means Ronnie will have to win out as well. So I've got Ronnie in that 3 seed. He would be fighting Glenn for the number 2, but the point spreads, Ronnie just had a really weak first half of the season. So I don't think he's going to make up the points to catch Glenn and get the bye. But I do think he will be the second 9-4 team. I got Kyle in the 4 seed at 8-5. James, he's going to have you on the points. But you guys will, like I said, I think, James, you'll win out and tie Kyle. And then that 6th spot is the tricky one. I think we can all agree to some variance, right? Those top 4 or 5 look pretty solid from a probability standpoint. But the 6th seed's the tricky one. And I looked at a lot. I had it torn between Bryson and Chris. I was going back and forth on those 2, looking at their teams, looking at their points. And at the end of the day, I gave it to Chris. So I think Chris, I know he's kind of been my dark horse all season. I think he's got, like I said, oh, that's right, I said it, but I didn't actually transition to it. His wide receivers are crap. Over the past 4 weeks, they've averaged 15 points as an entire unit. So it's really fallen apart because, yeah, he was averaging 36 the first 6 weeks, but in the last 4, it's 15. He is dead last in wide receiver points. So he needs to do some work there. And like we said, the trade deadline passed, but I got to be making some moves. I think I saw him making some moves this morning. So he's hopefully aware of it and is trying, but not to like root for him or anything, but I definitely think he's been the kind of team I've been watching this season and going, God, he's got what it takes. He's just not put it together at the right time. So I think if he, and his, that's the other thing, his schedule, he has, hold on, I just had it. He plays Jeremy this week, and Jeremy has everybody on bye. So it's not looking good, despite even Jeremy's 1-9 record. And then James, he plays you. So if we give that to you, James, on my same theory that you win out, he has Chris Alwadala the week after. So his final 3 matchups are pretty tasty. So if you can combine that with some increase your wide receiver points from 15 a week to 25, you've got a decent chance of winning what you need to win to get in. So from there, I don't know what'll happen, but do I think he can get in? Yes. So he's my 6th seed.
I will say one thing, and I usually don't say this type of stuff about my own team though, but if there's a spot to lose, it's mine with the schedule that I have remaining of playing the top 3 teams outside of me, of playing Glenn this week. I got you next week, Dave, and then I finish with Ron. So if there's a spot for to be lost, it's mine. And so that being said, I mean, I know we talked about like the top 4 kind of by probability being a lock, but it's definitely where like it could definitely shift by me playing the top 3 teams going into the last 3 weeks of the season.
But you just need, I mean, you basically need 1 win. So, if it comes against Glenn or if it comes against Ron in the last week, or you have Dave in week 12.
Yeah, my best shot is this week against Glenn with Gronk being questionable and him getting rid of Crabtree, and it's this week. If I win this week, I'll feel better.
Yeah, I mean, either way, you just need 1 win basically to get to 7-6 and you're in. So anything can happen to get 1 win, unless you're Jeremy.
I'll do unthinkable things for that 1 win. I want the whole league to know. I will do unthinkable things for that win.
So yeah, I mean, I think we're, there's still a lot that could happen, but there are still 8 teams fighting for playoff spots because one's eliminated and one's a lock. So,
wait, who is
that's kind of what we wanted. Kais Jr.
Wow.
No. So yeah, that's what we've always that's what we love is when this stuff comes down to the last couple of weeks and really the last games. That's when it's the most fun. So even though people get pissed off and leave the Facebook group for like a while and then sort of come back eventually,
And you know what's fun about the last week too for me is being above it.
ESPN.
I haven't called ESPN yet this season. That's a huge accomplishment for the league.
Oh man!
If we can get through the entire season without me having to sit on hold with ESPN, get some shit figured out, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, week 13 is going to be great from my vantage point. Just kind of like perched up, just kind of like looking at all the just madness underneath
in that
me.
number 2 seed.
We'll see. We shall see. Well, we're going quite a while here, guys. Do you guys have any critical matchups that you saw while you were looking that you'd want to touch on real quick before we peace?
Well, this week, I mean, so there could be some down the line, like next week in week 13. This week in particular, really Bryson's got to win somehow. He's got a tough, he's almost got to run the table really. So he's got to win this week against Dave. I don't know that it's going to happen, but it could. We'll see if they ever set their lineups. So we can compare and talk about things. 'Cause douchebags.
Hey, I set mine.
Okay, I'm not gonna look. But anyways, and then Dennis versus me, I think is a pretty big one. Just as far as who's got sort of the inside track to getting in the playoffs. So.
Oh, guys, we have a caller. Here, hold on a second. Hold on 1 second, caller.
Caller, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hey, caller.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're live on the air.
What?
You're live on the air, yeah.
Oh, man. Second time, long time. Just want to call and say you guys are doing a great job. My question is for Kyle.
Yeah.
Is Kyle there?
Kyle's here, yeah.
Kyle, laundry.
You're multitasking during a podcast?
Kyle, what are your thoughts on Team SmackDown not bringing on The Undertaker to the SmackDown team for the Survivor Series?
Whoa, bro, wrong show.
No, I got this. It's cool. This is the other podcast we're going here.
This is the most confident I've been on this podcast all day.
Whew, and now you guys are talking about something I'm good at finally.
Oh my God.
I feel, what was your name again, son? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Ron from Reno.
Ron from Reno, okay. How long you been a WWE fan for?
7 years.
Okay, cool. Then you understand what I'm talking about here. So you can't put an old-ass man on the roster to then outshine the rest of all your good talent. Do you see what I'm saying there?
I do, but Shane McMahon is on the team.
Right, but he's still younger than him.
Yeah, he is younger.
Yeah, that's the logic. That's the logic that we talk about.
Well, I have a question. If you're immortal, then what's your age really?
You know what? You bring up a good point too. Now that I think about it. Well,
Thanks.
Yeah, at that point, I don't have an answer for you. I'm not good at
Okay.
this. I just win fantasy football championships. That's
Wow. All right. Yep. That's
Okay.
irrelevant.
Answer, Kyle.
Yeah. No. Hey, thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have any questions for this random caller?
Oh yeah, I do. Wait, what was your name again, caller?
Ron.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Oh,
That's all I had.
that was clutch, James. I'm impressed.
Yeah, that was great. Great reference to that movie that happened in.
All right. Well, hey, I just want to call to keep the great work.
Oh, I have one more question for the caller. Is he still there?
Yep, caller's still here.
It was Ron, right? Ron?
Ron from Reno.
One N or two N's?
Oh my God.
Two N's. Okay.
I like to spell it with one, but
Gotcha. Okay. Do you have any fantasy football championships in the league that you play in with 10 other guys or 9 other guys?
no.
Okay.
That's it's been rough. It's been rough. I'm probably not going to win this year. There's a powerhouse at the top of our league right now that I don't see get beat.
Well, is that?
His name's Glenn. What's that?
I was gonna say, powerhouse.
Yeah.
Typically, a powerhouse would have a lock. Does your Glenn with 2 N's have a lock?
Glenn with the proper spelling of 2 N's. I'm not going to say a lock because nothing in this world is a lock. But if I were to give a prediction for my league, I don't know what you guys are talking about. My personal league, I think it's going to be a Glenn versus seizures and divorces in the chipper, and seizures and divorces lose that game.
Well, I think we've proven this caller knows nothing about football.
But that said, I do have a side bet. I think that seizures and divorces wears a championship belt with a dress.
Oh.
Wow.
That is interesting. I never thought of it.
I mean, if that does happen, it's going to come down to which I think is going to be, if it does match up this way, if Glenn, because Glenn and Dave play each other the last week of the season. So if it comes down to that, it's going to be pretty epic.
We got to have a get together for that.
Yeah. So that'll be good.
Tiebreaker go to points forced.
It does. And Glenn he says he did it intentionally, but I can't believe that for a second. Did not start a defensive player last week.
Yeah, I don't understand the reasoning behind that since he's still wrestling Adrian Peterson.
But James is rostering. Isn't James rostering AP?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That caller
This
doesn't
call-
know
this
much
caller
about
knows
fantasy
nothing.
football.
This caller knows nothing.
He's coming back, bro. Why would I not just have him in my IR slot? Just in case he miraculously takes like 4 cycles of HGH this week.
Very true. It's possible. It is AP.
Thank you.
Yep, just slap him on the ass with a couple willow branches.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we're losing you, caller. I think
Yeah.
we're losing you. I think you're cutting out.
Going through a tunnel. All right,
All right. Wow. 2 callers for a podcast that gets 13 views. That's pretty
Epic, man.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Nice job, guys.
Yeah. Well, that's a fairly decent note to end on, I suppose. I mean, unless, Kyle, did you have any other critical matchups you wanted to discuss?
Nah, I mean, just that one. If we look I was looking in the coming weeks here. In week 12, we have James and Chris, which is going to be big in the sense of that like 5th to 4th seed, probably, in my opinion, at that point. So, I mean, that's going to be a big one in week 12. And then week 13, course.
I think Chris has some vengeance to seek on me and is probably going to just ram Schlagen me in week 12 to make up for the 0.1 point loss.
That one's crazy.
Which is totally fair. But, yeah, I'm a little worried about that one.
Yeah. Then week 13,
Not so worried about
Bryson and Dennis play in week 13. And then, of course, the one we just talked about that could determine the dress. And then me and Ronnie. I mean, week 13 is really the week of the big matchups, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say this, okay? Here's something that's interesting as, like, not to keep rambling on about stuff, but if Awadala wins this week against Ron, it could get interesting because he plays Dennis in week 12 and Chris Bergeron in week 13, and those are both. So he'd be taking down all teams above him. He would need Bryson to lose a game in there probably. So if Awadala wins 3 games, beats Bergeron, Bergeron loses 1 other game, and Dennis loses, like, Awadala could be in. So
it's crazy.
Kind of like right now, a lot of people just have to run the table, and we'll see who does it because somebody's going to.
I hope Chris does it because if he beats Ron and the guys that are right around me, perfect. It makes my life easier with the tough schedule I have.
I hope he doesn't. I hope everybody loses. So
no, I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, he's definitely not out. He has points on Bryson and Dennis, and he's only 14 points behind Bergeron. So you see a couple of those other teams lose out, and we've seen 6 and 7 teams make the playoffs before.
Yep.
So
I think I did.
I know I did. Yeah.
I did last year. Started 0-5, finished 6 and 7, and made it.
Yeah. So it's possible. I wanted to add there's some key matchups right now, I think, in week 11. The Glenn versus Kyle matchup. Kyle actually touched on it already. He's looking at this like as a must-win for his team, and I think that that's definitely true. You don't want to go into the next 2 weeks needing one of those. If you can get that one win you need right now, get it. And then in week 12, I think you called out the Bergeron and James game. Kyle, I had that as well. And then Ronnie and B in week 12 is also a really, really big one. Given where Ronnie is right now and B's strong need to win. B's, like you said, B's got to kind of win out, but I think that this also has some implications for Ronnie depending on what happens this week. So a little bit down the road, but definitely another big one as well.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have to do another one of these next week just to reevaluate because this is going to be moving week. That's kind of what I would call it is move. Like we're going to see some people moving up and down and things taking shape a little bit more. So it's going to be pretty fun and fucking awful.
Heartbreaking all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but one thing is for sure is we know who the Midnight Rider is. So there's that.
Midnight Rider. Sorry about that.
I think we're good. I think I've had enough.
All right. Well, on that note, then, fellas, excellent job. Thanks for coming through. And I'm sure our 7 other viewers will really appreciate this, the time that we put into this, and the hard work and dedication that we show to the league. Also, possibility for an actual factual out this week before Sunday's games. So keep your eyes out for that. It's called a teaser, bitches. Rufio. All right. Thanks, everyone. Kyle.
Bye.
Kyle, say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
All right, thanks. See ya.